Welcome to another episode of Grind Culture Podcast. I am Ed.
I am Colton.
And thank you again for watching us. Thank you for subscribing and liking and commenting, and I appreciate all your support. So we are recording on a rainy day, a rare rainy day for, I would say, this last season. We haven't been really getting too much rain.
Mm-hmm. In Southern California.
In SoCal. But we did have an excellent weekend.
Yep.
Not weekend so much, but Friday, we did a pretty cool experience that we get to do every year, I guess, right? We've been doing it every year. We haven't missed a year of doing it.
Yeah, it's our yearly cupping trip.
Because I've been here for almost, this will be my third year, so every time I've been here, we've done a cupping trip.
Yep.
And for those who don't know what a cupping is, it's essentially, how about you explain just like the basis of a coffee cupping?
Very generic answer is cupping is when you are trying coffee for the first time.
Yeah.
To get what the cup results are. Mm-hmm. So the flavor profile of the coffee that you're roasting.
Yeah. And so we do that with the suppliers that send us over their green coffee. Mm-hmm. They import it, and then they allow us, or we're one of their customers, in which we roast the coffee and we provide it to our partners to sell.
Yeah, so you check for quality, consistency, and flavor profile. And
this year, we usually do it with ICT, International Coffee Trade. Yep. Who are awesome people. They hosted us. They hosted me twice. I think you three times. Yep. And every time was fantastic. And I learned so much from them. Mm-hmm. But we were able to do it with Hacea, who are based in Orange, California. And how did you meet Hacea again? How did you come about getting in touch with Hacea? What's his name?
Luke. Yeah, Luke. So I knew the business before I met him. So I just found them randomly online because I was last year. If you guys have been listening to the podcast, I was in search of the blueberry note inside of coffee. So I was just going through Google looking for like local suppliers of coffee. And we have some in the shop that do have a little bit of a note. But I wanted like a really, really crazy blueberry note in coffee because people talk about it all the time. And they're talking about like, man, I tasted blueberry for the very first time in coffee. And that's what changed my whole perspective on what coffee actually is. So I went on this hunt, finally found them. I was like, oh, sweet, they're local. I can get it here within like a day. So bought a bunch of green coffee samples from them. And then that kind of started it. So I just kept up with like their Instagram and everything. And then they posted a roasting competition that we also talked about with our roaster, Gavin.
Yeah.
Go back, check it out. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And he did the roasting competition through them, and that was right before Coffee Fest. And we ended up going to the roasting event that night, and that's how I met the whole team.
Yeah. Especially
Luke, connected with him, and then after that started a partnership through TCR now, which is really cool, and they're supplying some coffee. So, yeah, it's how we met them.
Some of the best coffee I think we've had were through Hacea. We were able to do our own cupping, which we'll get into later at our shop that we're in now, because you've taken like action, or you've taken the lead and kind of illustrating, or not illustrating, but like hosting a cupping here when we have new coffee come in. You really do like research the ins and outs of how to do a coffee cupping, which again we'll get into later. But most of that was Hacea coffee. Am I correct on that?
On how to do it?
On just like the recent ones that we've been doing. Like
yes. So I kind of started off doing just like random coffees that we get in house, and then I kind of already knew the profiles, but I really wanted to spark it up again. And I kind of did it for myself, like here and there.
Yeah.
Then I was like, oh, sweet. I want to do this for the team as well. I don't want it to be like a monthly thing where, we all go take a break and we cup a couple coffees, and hopefully they're fun. Hopefully I can bring like outside coffees that are, super crazy, or or just like a generic, like really good, just cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And I just wanted that to be like a fun team building type thing outside of our day-to-day, jobs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we started that last year, I believe. Just started doing it once a month at least. It's probably around the summertime I started doing it.
Yeah.
And we'll also do like a latte art throwdown too, just with all of us, and that's pretty fun. So we'll do that just for team building, and that's actually why like I really like when I went to ICT for the first time, I really wanted to like know more about coffee, and I really wanted to know their experience, and I knew they had a cupping room and all this stuff. So I was like, man, that'd be really cool to like implement for this place and the staff, doing like a yearly trip somewhere. Ideally, I would like to go to a coffee farm and check out all that, but hopefully that's down the road in the future.
Yeah.
But when I first went, it was just me and my coworker Cameron, and you guys have seen him on past episodes, and it was just me and him. We took a trip down to San Diego. We got the experience, and we were like on cloud nine. We're like, oh my gosh, because it was like the first time that we were actually like doing something outside of the shop,
right?
And it just like kind of brought more of a perspective of what coffee actually is, and like how many people are involved, and how cool it is to be a part of like the specialty coffee world. So now that's my goal, to do a yearly trip with my team.
Yeah.
And I hope people enjoy it. So
it is cool. It's a very cool team building thing. And I kind of had that same experience when I first went with you guys. It was me, you, Cameron again, DJ, and Titus. I think that was like the core team that we had the first time I went. I don't think there was anybody that was work. That was
Robbie here yet? Or was that a year after?
That was Robbie wasn't here yet. And it was us five that went. We took my car, and I didn't know what a coffee cupping was, but you guys have kind of explained it to me, and I kind of just went on this like journey with you guys, and kind of just hunchbacked on your guys' experience, and made sure that like at first I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing, even though I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
In a way, but like the experience was not overwhelming at all. It was actually like really cool, like you said, cool and informative, and it really like tests. Not only does it test your knowledge for coffee, but it also like tests your sensories, like your palate and your taste and your smell and your vision even.
Yeah.
It's with coffee, you don't really think about that stuff, but it does have a lot of sensory triggers to it.
That's all of it, right?
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, I mean, feel everything. Yeah, and so like that was the coolest thing that just based off of my first experience with coffee cupping, is you really utilize everything, not knowing that you utilize everything.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm laughing because of the first experience that we had.
Oh yeah. Well, I want to get into that too. Yeah. Just like very quick side story, because my first experience, I knew how I felt, and again, I was able to piggyback off you guys, but you guys didn't have anybody like that. You guys just kind of went into it.
Yeah, we just went for it.
Kind of blind. So,
yeah.
Like, did you have an experience where like you acted like you knew like what was going on, but you actually didn't?
Not at all. We acted like total noobs.
Yeah.
And we just didn't we weren't really prepared about how much like coffee we were gonna drink.
Yeah. Oh, right.
So we for the trip, we're about like an hour outside of San Diego. So for the trip, we're like, oh, let's get a coffee for the ride in. So we got a coffee, drank it on the way there, and then we got there and we're like nervous. So you're already like kind of shaky. And we had the jitters from our coffee getting there.
Yeah.
And then we start going cupping. And usually in cupping, you have a spitter cup. Some people just don't want to drink so much coffee, so they spit their coffee after they taste it.
Yeah.
But we're like, nah, screw that. Like, we want to taste all the coffee. And we were just like shaking, like holding the spoon, because we were like nervous and shaky, and it was so funny. Like, and we got so wired.
Granted, no food or nothing in your system besides coffee.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but we still do that though. Like, I still feel like we go get coffee because we had coffee. I want to talk about the trip up there.
Yeah, for sure.
And then like the cupping, like just the ins and out of cupping in general. But so this trip experience, we typically work half day, and then all of us pile in on one car or a couple cars, and we go to our destination. In this case, it was up in Orange, California, and that's the thing. We ate first, which I think is a pretty solid thing, because I don't think we ate the last 2 times until afterward.
This was so much better.
This was better because we ate and then we had time to like walk around town Orange, which is a really cool town.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I think it's a college town, but I don't know what college is up there. And
Chapman.
Is it Chapman?
Chapman University.
Okay. Because there was a lot of young people there.
Yep.
And there's coffee shops there. There was a few that we passed by, but we ended up stopping at Play Coffee.
Yes.
And you've been there before.
Mm-hmm.
Play Coffee. Explain to the audience what Play Coffee, like just the ambiance of Play Coffee.
So Play Coffee is something that I found on Instagram about 2 years ago, and I've always it was just one of those coffee shops that was on my list. Like, oh my gosh, their aesthetic is really cool, and you can tell that they serve like specialty, like high grade coffee, and they import other coffees from like a bunch of different roasters. So something I always like kind of kept up with, and I do have like a coffee list of places I want to visit, and this was just one of them. So I think my first visit was probably like 3 years ago to the Orange location. They do have 2 locations. They might have more, but I know of 2. They have 2 locations. One's in downtown Orange, the one we went to. And then the other one is in Anaheim, like 10 minutes away, kind of closer to where we did
Where
cupping.
the Coffee Fest was?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or no, just where we did the cupping.
Oh,
so
I see.
I think it's somewhere up there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, their locations are really cool. Like, they have like bright colors and they look really cool. One of their locations is like built out of like a storage container. And you know, they decked it out and cut it and all the stuff and made a coffee shop out of it, which is really cool. And then the one we went to is in an old bank. So if you've ever been to downtown Orange, it sits right on the corner of the roundabout that's like in the center of town. And they just kind of like took over this old bank, and it's just a huge, like really cool, like hand-built bank. Has like cool ceilings and walls, and they just put a coffee shop right in the middle.
Yeah.
And you can just tell they know what they're doing. They serve really good coffee. People are really cool. There's a lot of college kids, like you mentioned. They're all just on their laptops all around. But it's really cool.
Yeah.
Cool little place.
I'll put videos up for the people that are viewing. It just felt like I used to go up to Chico up in Northern California, which is like a big party school, and a lot of my friends after high school went there. Yeah. And so we would always go up and visit them. Or also like San Luis Obispo. We just head up that way. And I think my first experience with an actual like coffee shop other than Starbucks, actually, like didn't even think about it in my head, was up in one of those college towns. And when we walked into Play Coffee, it reminded me very much of that. And I was like, oh, whoa, it's like, this is a very young city, I feel like. Right. Because then we went walking afterwards. I'll get into my experience with Play in a second, but we went walking afterwards, and there were just a bunch of young people. Yep. I don't feel that old, but when you're in a college town full of young people, you kind of do feel old a little bit, you know?
Yes, likewise. I do not feel old at all.
Because everybody's wearing like backpacks and laptops and like headphones, and I'm so far off from like the college experience now. Like, it just feels like odd to me.
Yeah, I look at college kids now and they look kind of like high schoolers to me. I'm like, gosh, they look young.
Yeah, and in a way they were like a couple years ago, high schoolers, maybe even a year ago.
That's pretty wild.
But yeah, so Play Coffee is very cool. I'd never been to a coffee shop like that. I think when you do something different that nobody else has done, and I'm sure people have done this in other parts of like the world, or even our country, where they converted a building into a coffee shop, kind of made it their own. I never stepped into one. So stepping into Play, it was cool seeing like what was a bank, like the teller station, and like I guess there was like a vault, like the bathrooms are by the vault or whatever. It's cool when like something is converted into something else. So Play was very much like that. And the location of where they were prepping coffee was cool. The coffee options that they had, though very generic, I do appreciate that sometimes, because it's not overwhelming. Like, we have this latte and that latte. It's kind of like your just basic lattes, even though I didn't have a latte. I'll probably go back and try one eventually. But they had like the standard like pour over list, and they had like just tea stuff, and just like it wasn't an overwhelming menu, which I think I enjoy more so than like we're throwing this at you, we're throwing that
Yeah.
at you, and throwing that at you, and check out this flavor, and like
Yeah, and they have a good pour over menu. And two of our coworkers actually got the most expensive
one.
$16 pour over.
Yeah, and I got I think the cheapest one. No, like the second cheapest one.
It's like $10 or something.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it. We got a flash brew.
Nice.
Two of us got a flash brew. So one of them, I think Gavin just got the standard pour
Yep.
over. What did you get again?
Espresso tonic,
Oh yeah,
which sounded really good.
yeah.
I would have normally got a pour over,
Mhm.
but I don't know. Anytime I see espresso tonic, I'm like, yes. Especially when I know that someone makes it really good.
Mhm.
Down.
It's something I feel like is kind of out of the ordinary to me because I'm still new to espresso tonic. When you ordered it, I was like, "What is that? Why are you doing that?"
So, what the heck is that guy?
So I never had one before, and I tried yours, and it was good to my surprise.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that's pretty popular now, huh?
Yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah,
A lot of people are figuring it out that it's not a hidden menu item anymore. And they're like, oh, it's actually pretty good.
yeah, because tonic is usually served with a pour over just like to cleanse the palate, right?
Yeah, but it's like the people that make it right. It's like a sweetened tonic. So it's not just a plain tonic water. It's like a lemonade tonic water or something like kind of more fruity.
Yeah.
And then the espresso on top, and then like garnished with some like dried fruit or something.
Pamplemousse, maybe.
Pamplemousse.
Yeah. A little inside joke here. We get a lot of pamplemousse
Pamplemousse?
tonic water here.
Yep.
Which is what? Grapefruit? Anyways, Play Coffee. Very, very highly recommended if you're up in the Orange area. The guy that was the cashier, I talked to him a little bit, and he was really friendly. The staff that was working there seemed like they knew what they were doing, which is, again, per last episode, is a big plus when it comes to a coffee shop, consistency. And I can tell people just like it. And the price was high,
Yes.
but you're paying for the quality and the consistency and the experience. So sometimes it's warranted. I know I talked a lot of BS last episode about the inconsistency of coffee shops, but Play is a good example of, I think, a coffee shop doing it right.
Yeah, because they're just small enough to where they're like, they can keep those standards high. They're not, booming 10, 20 stores, and they're just losing control.
Yeah.
But speaking of Play, they do have a really good selection of imported coffees from a bunch of different roasters. So really good place to like go and check out some like really good coffee that you don't normally see or can't normally get at like any coffee shop. So that's one really cool thing to check them out. But put your prices on your bags.
Seriously.
I hate when there's not prices on things. It's like, I mean, yeah, some people, I get it. We talked about this, but it's like, I need to see the price of something by myself. And then I'll make a decision if I want to buy it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go ask like, hey, how much is this? Because I'm going to feel like a dweeb,
Yeah.
How much?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I think that's sometimes unfair of people to do. Just don't put a price on it. I mean, coffee is coffee. It's not like a pretentious thing. Like, it's not a designer bag. Put a price on it. And if we want to buy it, we'll buy it. If we don't, we don't.
And if it's like too expensive that you don't want to put the prices out there because people are going to talk smack, it's like, put a story of that coffee like there so people like know why it costs so much.
Right next to the price.
Yeah. Why not?
Anyways,
transparency is key.
So just quickly off of that, the coffee scene in Orange, it did seem, we did pass a lot of coffee shops that you said, oh yeah, this one's pretty good, and this one, oh yeah, I've been there, I want to try that one. Orange seems like a town that is very accommodated to a coffee shop scene, which really bums me out about Temecula. Because Temecula is kind of like, it's busy. They have like a lot of town shopping centers spread everywhere, opposed to where like Orange was a very old school feel town. Like, if you know Disney Channel, like Halloween Town, that kind of reminded me of that, just like there's like a center, like a little roundabout center, and then it spreads out to like a lot of old style buildings, or like just like 1-story buildings, or if they're like banks, or like 2-story buildings or whatever. That's the kind of, I wish we had that close, because that would be so cool to have like that kind of style infrastructure around Temecula somewhere. In Old Town, I know it's kind of like that.
Kind of, but it's a really big bar scene.
Yeah, more bars than coffee shops.
Bars, restaurants, food, but it's like, I wish there was more like more to do
Yeah.
with like family and
So-
walking and
Yeah. So was there any other coffee shops around that area that you know of that you would recommend if people are up there?
so there are a few that I know of. There's one right down the freeway in Santa Ana. That's called the Nook Coffee Bar.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good too. And they're in like a really cool like shopping, like little mall like place type looking place.
Mm-hmm.
They're really good. They've got like a really good Kyoto style cold brew.
Mhm.
And if you don't know what a Kyoto style cold brew maker is, it's like kind of like one of those towers that you see with like it's all glass and it's usually in like bamboo wood and it like funnels down the coffee.
Don't you have one?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I need to put it out and make some. But
Mhm.
they have really good option there. And then there's one. What else? Oh, right next to Play Coffee, there was Contra Coffee.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
And they're really good. They specialize in like draft lattes, and you can get like flights of coffee and things like that. And they're always changing up their menu like every week. It's kind of like a brewery, but for coffee. So it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have like kombucha and stuff too. I could be wrong about that, but they have that. There's one more. I mean, there's a ton in that area. And if you're ever looking for a good coffee shop, like a good like specialty coffee shop, I have an app, and that app is called The Perfect Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Download that if you're in an area you don't know where good coffee shops are. That app is actually specializes in specialty, like showing where good coffee shops are. So check that out. There's one more that I really wanted to mention that's in that area because I know that they're close to Play, and then they also have like 2 more locations somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna butcher it. Nope. Thank You Coffee.
Thank you,
Yes.
coffee. Okay.
Yes. I haven't been there, but it's one of the ones I follow, and it's on my list.
Yeah. Well, if we get to do the Hacea trip again, we'll definitely try it out. New coffee shops, because I would like to visit all of them because it just again the town is so cool. Even the Starbucks that was there had a cool like little ambiance to it.
Right.
I don't know if you took note of where that Starbucks was.
It was when we were walking down, right?
Yeah.
Main? Yeah.
Yeah. So even Starbucks was like, hey, I'll take part of this like local coffee
It
shop.
was like right on the corner,
Yeah.
right across the street. Yeah. It was.
Anyways, yeah, that was Orange and that was Play Coffee. And the team building aspect of that, just to touch on that a little bit, is I think it's very important. I know some of our team members couldn't go. They had other things to do. But I just in general, I encourage people to do stuff like that with their team because you learn a lot about who you're working with, who you see. I mean, if you're working a lot 5 days out of the week, you might have a lot in common with these people. You might, I don't know, like be open about yourself if people don't really know anything about you. And it's also a good icebreaker.
Yeah.
I got so much more comfortable with everybody after my first trip.
Mm-hmm.
I got to know some of our other team members on our second trip, some of the new team members.
Yep.
Like Nate and Kaylin and all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got to know them more. And then with this trip, first I got to know like Sam a little bit more.
Yep.
She's the one that drove. Thank you, Sam, for driving us.
Yep. In the new whip.
Yeah, and I got to know Nate and Gavin a little bit more, even though I know them like a good amount now.
Mm-hmm.
I still got to like experience that with them, and then with you, obviously, like you and I feel like are just 2 peas in a pod at this point,
Right.
you know.
The dads of the group.
But again, it's like that team building thing, and even my sister-in-law Sarah, she works at like this jewelry place, kind of like what a drop shipping jewelry place, I think.
Okay.
And she did like an escape room with her team members,
Oh, nice.
I think, and or like her boss or her manager took them out like on Christmas or the holidays, I think, to buy them all Vans shoes. So they all went to the Vans store to get shoes.
That's
like,
a cool idea.
Yeah. So they do stuff like that, and it brings the team closer together. It makes it a lot easier to work with the people that you're around. You're more open, you're more communicative around them.
Yep.
If there is like any kind of issue or dilemma, now you guys have like some comfortability of like talking it out, you know? So team building, I always think is important. And I know
For sure.
coffee podcast, I know that, but there's little things that I think that should be said just based off of like our coffee experience.
Yeah.
And like that team building is definitely one of them.
Yeah. And that's like a key feature I've really wanted to implement in our team, because it's like I mean, we've mentioned this time after time again. We're with each other more than with our families, so it's like, why not, be friends? I mean, yes, like be professional, but like be friends and don't feel awkward around each other. Like, especially if you do something wrong, you're not like scared to approach me about it and be like, hey man, sorry, I burnt this bag, rather than just being like, oh, I'm just gonna ship it, So it's just really cool. Like, and like you're saying, watching people come out of their shell a little bit, and I like that. I like, because I don't really feel awkward around people unless it's like maybe a big setting and everybody's looking at me, But in like group settings, I don't feel awkward. I like kind of like I like watching other people feel uncomfortable and then getting comfortable. I like seeing someone that's like a total shy person come out and they're like, hanging out after a few times. They're like, they have a really cool, like, because some people don't really have a place to talk or like be themselves. They're too scared, or they might be in a weird situation at home, or so it's really cool when you can create an environment that's like professional, friendly, like fun. And yeah, we've had a few people here that have like, and not fully, but like we've seen some people like get out of their shell a little bit and
one of them
crack some jokes.
One of them being is somebody that we said bye to because they moved on from our team, Titus, and
R.I.P. man.
Yeah, Titus, if you ever watch this, I don't know if you do or not, but I miss you dearly, man. It sucks that you're gone, but I hope you're on to better things. And Titus was always one of those guys, dude. Like, ever since I've been here, he's always like kind of like shy, but when you get him going, dude, he's like one of the funniest guys I've ever met, I think. Titus was awesome. But going back to very one quick thing that I remembered. So we did eat before we went to the cupping, and we had coffee.
Yep.
You could tell we were all so hungry.
I know, we ate dude, we didn't even talk.
we talked, sat down, our food came, dude. No, not a peep. Everybody just ate.
Yeah, I think Nate ate his food in like 5 minutes.
Dude,
less.
I didn't know people ate as fast as I did.
Yeah.
Everybody beat me. I was like, Jesus.
What the heck?
Yeah. So I just thought that was so funny, just reflecting back on that. Like, everybody was starving.
And then again, like you do have like that almost like kind of nerves, kind of some people might feel awkward. So just shovel and
dude, the food was good though.
It was good.
Yeah, breakfast burrito for me. That's my go-to.
Phil station.
Yeah, Phil station.
In Orange, really close to Play Coffee.
Yeah. So that was also awesome. Okay, so to the cupping. We did the Orange, or we did Orange, and we got to walk around, went to antique stores and stuff like that, which was cool. And then we headed to Hacea to do the cupping. What did you feel any different doing the cupping at Hacea than you did at ICT?
Not really. I felt kind of like the same, like welcoming. I feel like when the coffee community is kind of the same. You have like really chill people that are just in the coffee. They love coffee, and that's kind of like why we're all there. So kind of get like the same vibes. I expected kind of like exactly what we got, just kind of like ICT, but a little smaller and more like specialty, like micro lot coffee. So it was really cool. And Luke hosted us very well.
He did. He was a great host, very knowledgeable. You can tell that he did his studies. He really knowledged up on coffee. He mentioned that he almost had no choice but to like take the quality test. I forget the quality license. I forget what it is.
Yeah, the Q grade.
The Q grade, because his brother got COVID and he lost his taste, so he had to step in and do that. And now he's so knowledgeable on coffee. He taught us a lot, even more so than what we knew.
Yeah,
or at least me.
Yeah, me too.
So he was a great host. But going back to like the familiarity with the cupping, there is a standard on how you do cupping from one place to another.
Yep.
Where it's almost like universal how you perform a cupping. And going back to you performing cuppings here.
Yep.
Could you walk us through just like an ideal cupping experience? And it could be no matter where we're doing it, no matter what kind of setting, it should be a standardized experience when you're doing cupping. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So let me think of a simple way to put it. So you get your coffee, you grind it correctly. It's very important how you grind it. Has to be your right size, because when you put hot water on it, it really matters timing wise how long you let it bloom. So the grind's got to be right. Depending on the size of your cup, it's going to be anywhere from 10 to 13 grams.
Which is usually like around this size, right?
Yeah, like cups. An 8-ounce, 10-ounce cup, even smaller. I've seen so many different sizes. Like this one, I'd put probably 13 in. But yeah, you grind your coffee, you put it in the cup. You usually do like a sensory smell, like of just, smelling the coffee. And then you get water. It's usually supposed to be around like 200 degrees, they say, how you should cup it. So you put hot water on it. You again do smell tests. You smell coffee as it's blooming. And then you usually go up to 4 minutes or so. And then you break the crust of that coffee. And then as you're breaking the crust, you're doing another smell test, because a lot of those aromas will come out after the bloom phase. And then you take all the top, like remaining like crema and bubbles and anything floating to the top. You take those out with 2 spoons, discard it, and then you kind of just wait.
Yeah.
You can keep smelling it as it's cooling, but you want to wait. I noticed Luke waited around like 20 minutes, which is actually why I do as well. At ICT, I think it was a little faster, around like 14 minutes, but I really can't taste coffee that well until like 20 minutes hits.
Yeah.
The only bad thing is
hot.
Within like 20 to 25 minutes, it goes from perfect to too cold. But in those 5 minutes, like the coffee tastes so different. So around 20 minutes after you let it cool, you start slurping. So if you've ever seen it, you have your special cupping spoon and you start slurping. So a lot like wine.
It's a good noise in my ear there. Going back to the preparation of it. So what I've found out is you have not 1, not 2, but generally 4 or 5 different cups of the same coffee. And there's like, how many coffees did we do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. We did 8. So ideally there'd be 5 cups of the same coffee, of the 8 different coffees. And Luke was saying that the reason for that is, if the coffee, again, we're talking about consistency. If there is a bean or something that's wrong with one of these flavors and there's an outlier, people are able to identify, okay, there's something wrong with this cup. Maybe there was a bean that was misplaced, or there was like a faulty bean in there.
Right, like a burnt bean or something.
Yep. So like it's kind of like a quality check when you're doing a cupping. It's not all just for like, oh, let's do a cupping because I want to taste this. It's for a reason, that make sure your lot is good and it's consistent and you're shelling out proper coffee. Right. So there's a reason as to why cupping is done, which is something else I found out. Yeah. It's not just to taste, it's for quality check, quality assurance.
Yeah, and there's so many phases of cupping. Do you want me to mention those right now?
Yeah.
So and this is what I learned while we were there. So there's so before the cherry is ripe, before they even they pick it a little early, and that way you can process it and cup it. That way you know kind of like what's coming up in the future harvests. So you cup it and you almost kind of have to guess how good that coffee is going to be, at least the quality and the flavor profile. And then you cup that, say you buy it, then once it's processed the whole crop, then you test it once again, you cup it, you make sure that it's, what you thought it was going to be. And then you get multiple bags of that, you cup it, you make sure that the whole lot's good. And like you're saying, with the whole like 4 or 5 cups, it helps knowing that the whole lot's good, rather than, there might be half good, half bad. So you want to make sure you know what you're buying. And then, say you buy the whole lot, then once it comes in, you roast it and you profile it and you cup it again. So there's a lot of cupping involved from when the coffee's grown, from when it's roasted, and to where it gets to where it needs to be. So
going back to Hacea, they only supply green coffee. So they really rely on roasting it themselves and making sure that the green coffee is in good quality after people are actually roasting it, which is
Yeah.
like a very odd thing for me because we do something different. Whereas in we cup roasted because we sell roasted coffee. We sell green coffee too, but mostly our revenue comes from roasted coffee, supplying roasted coffee.
Yeah.
And it made to me, it makes more sense in my brain that we're cupping roasted coffee because that's what we're supplying. Hacea does it to make sure their green coffee is in accordance to what their product is.
Yeah.
So they go through the process of roasting it and cupping it, but they only sell green coffee. They do that for their green coffee.
Yep.
So it's really a process to not to only check the quality of the green coffee before roasted, but also roasted coffee as well.
Yeah. So you have a green supplier that does the quality assurance of the cupping to sell to the roaster, and then you have your roaster who does the profiling and wanting how they can. I mean, they can roast it however they want. You can have a light roast that tastes totally different than like the dark roast. So yeah, it just matters where you're at. You gotta different styles and reasons for cupping.
So that really something I learned, and I should have known that I should have known that was like the process just to check quality because of ICT. I'm sure they mentioned it, but for some reason, because it was a little bit more intimate at Hacea, it really allowed me to understand cupping a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just because of like the intimacy and like the personalization of Hacea. So I do appreciate that. So 5 cups, and this, again, that's for quality, but that's a lot of coffee that they go through in order to check for quality and for consistency. But then you break it, and what people also don't understand is it's not a standard cup of coffee. It's not like you brew coffee and you pour it in there. Like you said, they have ground coffee in the cup. They put hot water in it, and you have to break it so it floats down after bloom, and it settles to the bottom, and you take the froth off, what the creme of the froth or the excess off the top, and that's when you start slurping the coffee. Explain to us there I don't feel like there is a proper way of how to slurp coffee, though people generally do it the same way. What do you think is important when you're slurping coffee?
Just have to do it intensely, because like the more it can kind of be scattered around your palate, the more you can taste, the more that your senses get involved. If you're kind of just like, it's like, it's not really going to work as well. If you've ever done wine tasting, I haven't done wine tasting, but I've heard if you've ever done wine tasting, it's a lot like that. You're trying to slurp, you're trying to get all your senses involved rather than just like taking little sips. So yeah, you're just trying to get like the most flavor you can, like to the back of your tongue and letting it hit. So
yeah, people do it. Luke was doing it pretty intense. I try to mimic that, but I choke on water when I choked on water today. I choke on water generally when I'm drinking anything. Yeah. I choke on anything when I'm drinking because I don't know. My throat doesn't work properly sometimes. So when I slurp, I don't slurp as intensely as you would or Luke would or people at ICT would, but I tried to do it so where I can kind of maneuver or like have that
control it.
Have that kind of tool to use when you're cupping, the proper tool, so you could use your palate as much as you can. Yeah. And it does make a difference, I feel like, because there was times where I just drank it. Yeah. And I was like, this just tastes like coffee. Yeah. And there's times where I slurp it and you could really tell the notes when you do that. It does make a difference. So for people just think, well, we're doing it for a silly reason. We're not. It does make a difference.
Yeah, huge difference.
So do you have any favorites of what we tried? Do you remember any of your favorites that we tried? I remember mine.
Yeah. So other than I don't even think we have to put that watermelon processed coffee in there because that kind of just was like candy. Yeah. So that obviously was the best. It was so good. Yeah. But if we're just talking about the other 7, then number 7, Costa Rica Natural was my absolute favorite. Yeah. I did the one before. Do you remember number 6? It was also Luke's favorite, Nate's favorite. Tastes like white peach.
I want to say Colombia, but
Was that Colombia? I'm not sure. I forget.
My
but
favorite
that was a good one too.
Yeah, my favorite was Mexico, number 3. They said that
was good too.
They said Luke said that was the standard perfect cup of coffee, like just a generalization of your standard perfect cup of coffee. I forget what he said they call it, but they gave it a specific name. They just said it was like that or something like that.
Yeah.
But I forget what that white peach was. I want to say Colombia, but I could be wrong. I need to go back and check my memory bank, but I want to say it was Colombia.
Okay.
But yeah, they had a good amount. They had an Ethiopia in the very beginning, right?
2 Ethiopias or 3 Ethiopias.
Yeah, I think
really
2.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Mexico, and then they had a Guatemala, which was after Mexico, and then I think it was Colombia, and then the Costa Rica, and then there was something else.
Yep. The co-ferment watermelon was insane.
It was. You know what?
He ground it, and we all perked up. Like,
immediately. I smelt it. I was like, oh, here we go.
There we go.
Watermelon. Here's the thing about this might be, I don't know, and not an opinion that a lot of people share right now in like the coffee world, but I might be good without the co-ferment coffees because when it starts tasting too much like something else, I think it starts taking away from the root of what it is, and that's coffee.
Yes.
Not to say that it wasn't good, because it was good and I could drink a whole cup of it easily, but it just tasted, it was overwhelming I think at times. Because you get the smell, but you start getting like the taste of watermelon a little bit.
Oh yeah, big time.
Like more so than like just like a note of it. It's like, oh, is this watermelon juice that I'm drinking? What's going on here?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was good. Don't get me wrong. It's something that I think everybody should experience and just like kind of study up on. Like, whoa, you can make coffee like this? That's cool.
Yeah.
And people might like it. To me, I don't want to call it a gimmick, but the co-fermenting process is starting to get a little just tiresome for me, just for my palate.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'm opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Well, here, I love both, right? So I love like everything. Like that Mexico that we had is something that I need in my espresso machine all the time. That's I would have that thing in my espresso machine all the time. I wouldn't put anything else in there. And then I would have like that Costa Rica, and I would drink that as a pour over every single morning.
Yeah.
Drink that all day. And then I would definitely have that watermelon stashed in the drawer for special occasions. Like if my brother came down, or even like you or Cameron or someone came over, that's something I'm going to show off. I'm like, yo, I got something special for you.
Yeah.
So I need the wide variety.
Yeah.
Like even right now, that's exactly in my lineup in my coffee bar at home.
Yeah.
I have Mexico, and Peru decaf for my espresso machine. I have like a China processed coffee, or a China natural for like my pour over, and then I have like some crazy El Salvador processed coffee for like flash brews and something fruity and fun that I like. So I kind of like it because it gives us like enjoyment, but it also gives, like Luke was saying, it gives the farmer more to experiment with and a bigger menu, I guess, to offer. And like he was saying, like if you love it, like support it, type of thing. So that's something I would definitely like support. But like I said, I'd want it all. Like give me your good stuff, your funky stuff. You know, as long as the coffee's good and it was processed well and the farmer's getting paid and I'm getting paid. If everybody's getting paid well and it's doing it right, then heck yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I did have opinions on that at the time he was saying it. Like, I don't know why, but I wholeheartedly disagree with that for some reason. And I was trying to process in my head why I disagreed with that sentiment. But I feel like there should be some kind of respectability when it comes to coffee. Because yes, it does get people paid. So does pharmacies. The different kind of medication gets people paid. Experimentation with medication gets people paid. It does allow farmers to experiment. But how far does experimenting go where it's just redundant? Yeah. How far? I mean, and then if you love it, let people love it. There's no argument to that. If you love something, I am not going to say, hey, don't like that because of this. If that's the biggest thing that I cannot argue, because I totally wholeheartedly agree with. If somebody loves something, let them love it. I love things that people don't like, but it makes me happy.
Yeah.
So I do agree with that. But I don't know. I don't feel like people should be experimenting for the sake of making money or expanding their business if it just doesn't make sense. And I when he was saying that, I was like, not getting triggered, but I was like, no, I can't agree with. I can't
get on board with it.
I can't get on board with that for some reason. But I do agree. Like, it's just a business, and people are need to make money off of this. And if they're trying to push new experiments or new ways to process coffee, by any means, do it and make your money. But I also think there's a fine line to where don't do it for the sake of trying to be abnormal and not producing something good. Produce something good.
Yeah.
Be appreciative of the art that goes behind processing and making coffee.
Yeah.
And have some respectability towards that. And if the farmer is doing that, and our people are liking it, and people are drinking it, and people are paying for it, more power to them. I just, for some reason, couldn't agree with it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if you drop everything just to do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, we'll rip everything out. Like, let's make everything experimental now.
Yeah.
But, like I'm saying, I want it all. I'm selfish, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want it all. I want the very good, like, generic stuff.
Yeah.
Grow more crops, whatever you.
I know.
I'm not in a position to tell a farmer what to do.
No, same.
But I would think, like, just add more plants that these like 5 plants are going to be our experimental plants, but don't get rid of all your other ones. Like, keep the gold standard, and then do your stuff over here, but don't just go by what the market's saying.
Yeah.
Which is really hard to do, especially when it's your livelihood. I don't.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So I know, like, if a farmer would listen to us right now, he'd be like,
get out of town.
Get out of here.
Yeah. I mean,
so I don't know.
More power to them. I don't know.
But keep it all, man. Like, if there's a way, like, keep it all. Like, have an offering for everybody, and, like, hopefully the buyer too supports it all.
Yeah.
And not just, like, gets on hype train. It says screw it to all this old stuff, like, let's get all this, and then that crashes one day, and they're like, well, where's the old stuff? It's like,
I was trying to equate my feelings towards that to something, but I can't. I just don't. I couldn't. But for some reason, I just couldn't, like, 100% get on board with it. But that's fine. I agree. If, like I said, people like it, people are willing to spend their money on it, and people are making money off of it, more power to them. But I'm not going to agree with it.
Yeah.
But again, everything else was awesome. Luke was such a great host. Everything, the whole experience. Hacea, I would love to go back there again. Meet his brother, meet his dad. It is a family business. He was telling his story about how they started Hacea. It was I forget what the name. How he mentioned how the name came about. It was Hacea.
Hacea was like a word, like a term.
Yeah. That
they used, and then their last name is Hales.
Yeah, Hales. So they kind of combined it.
Yep.
So, very cool story. Very inspiring. Like, it made me want to study up coffee more so than I already have. And I want to kind of learn cupping too, so I can start doing it at home, because if you have the proper equipment, it's easy to do something at home and, like, just share that experience with your family members or people that are visiting. Like, oh, you got to check this coffee out. Let me do a cupping for you. And sip it up.
Yeah, I've done it at home for a few friends, my brother, whoever, family. And it's fun, especially when you're, like, in a more relaxed environment. And you're just at home making coffee, explaining people, like, especially, like, when you're the teacher, it's really cool. Like, like, because people are like, oh, sick. Like,
it's like, dang, you know coffee.
Dang, you're way into this. You're deep in this. Like, yeah, bro.
You're deep, dude.
But also, Luke, if you're listening, and we have said it or butchered anything, or even if you want to add anything, hit us up.
And you're welcome to come on.
Again, we're learning as we go.
Yeah, so. You're welcome to come on our podcast. In fact, we meant to ask you, but we're going to ask you now, and we're going to ask you later. Please come, share your knowledge, share your experience, share your story of Hacea, and I'm sure we'll be in contact soon about it. But
and thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That was awesome.
Most of all, thank you for hosting us and educating us, and we will definitely be back soon.
Heck yeah. And for anybody listening, if you want some freaking awesome coffee to roast, make sure to check out their website. Stay up to date with their offerings because they're always coming out with new stuff. Mm-hmm. And enjoy the fun world of coffee.
The goodness.
Yeah.
That was this episode. Next episode, we'll get into something else. But again, thank you for viewing us, listening to us, liking, subscribing, commenting, all of it. Peace.
Peace.